Hi, my name's Vince Sheehan and today I'd like to talk about Ben-Hur, the 1959 epic historical drama directed by William Wyler and starring Charlton Heston. The story's based on Lew Wallace's Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ, and a novel from 1880. And I guess if you could sum this story up, it's about one man's salvation from the self-destructive path of vengeance. This long film, which is roughly 3.5 hours long, can be divided into a prologue and 5 acts. And we even have an overture as well before the film begins. So it really is film making on a grand scale. And a worthy mention has to go to Miklos Rosa, who composed the score, some truly stirring music. A bit more about that later perhaps. But so we begin with this overture to get us in the mood with this image from the Sistine Chapel. And then we have a prologue with this voiceover, and it describes the birth of Christ and gives us a rough idea of the socio-political dynamics of first century Palestine as well. Then Act 1 really, I suppose you could summarise as the fall of Ben-Hur. Judah Ben-Hur is this rich, powerful, popular and influential Jewish aristocrat, and he is a Jewish patriot and he hates the Roman occupation, but he is a long-term friend with the new governor of Rome, this guy called Messala, played by Stephen Boyd. And they meet up again, reunited after many years, and they're great buddies. But then the relationship turns sour. It seems Messala wants Ben-Hur to kind of rat on the other Jewish leaders so they could be rounded up and executed, so any rebellion could be quelled, and Ben-Hur's not having that. Messala turns nasty, and they fall out. Later on, while the Roman consul is visiting, and while people are watching this parade of soldiers go through Jerusalem, Ben-Hur's sister, Tirzah, accidentally knocks off a loose tile from a roof, Ben-Hur's roof, and it falls down and unseats the consul from his horse. Panic ensues, and Messala and his soldiers see this as the perfect opportunity to arrest Ben-Hur, his sister and his mother Miriam on trumped up charges, and they're imprisoned. Ben-Hur manages to escape his cell briefly, and he encounters Messala. He demands that at least his mother and sister are released, but Messala refuses, and Ben-Hur is sent to the galleys, the Roman slave ships which do battle on the seas. This mighty Jewish prince has fallen to the status of a slave. Whilst he's on his way to the galleys, Ben-Hur is deliberately deprived water, even more so than the other prisoners on this torturous journey by foot. But he encounters Jesus Christ, and Christ gives him the water he needs to keep him going. And that's something that will be reversed near the end of the film. Act 2 centres on Ben-Hur and this Roman nobleman Arius. Ben-Hur is on this ship with the other slaves, chained to his oar, in terrible conditions, just sailing away through one Roman campaign after the other. He's been on these ships for a number of years by the time we get to Act 2. And this kind of commander turns up called Arius, and he puts the crew through their paces, and something strikes Arius about Judah Ben-Hur. There's something he catches his eye. He's not sure what it is. But eventually the ship goes into battle, and it looks like their ship's going to sink. There's a battle on the deck. Arius falls in the water, and Ben-Hur jumps in and saves him. And it's worth saying that Arius made sure that Ben-Hur wasn't chained to his oar when the ship was struck. So perhaps Ben-Hur's, this is kind of in gratitude for that. Anyway, he pulls him on the raft, Arius, and eventually rescued by a Roman ship. It turns out that Arius has actually been successful, even though he lost his ship. It's a Roman victory. And Arius returns to Rome with Ben-Hur, who's some kind of hero. Even the emperor is made aware of Ben-Hur and his exploits in saving Arius. And Arius even adopts Ben-Hur as his son. He gives him a ring. And Arius is played by Jack Hawkins, you know, a solid performance. But Ben-Hur wants to return to Rome. Ben-Hur's got unfinished business. He wants his vengeance on Messala, and he wants to free his mother Miriam and his sister Tirzah. So Act 3 is all about Ben-Hur returning home to Judea and finding his mother and sister. So Ben-Hur encounters Balthazar, one of the three kings from the Nativity, who provides the voiceover in the prologue. And Balthazar is looking for the adult Jesus Christ, who's roughly the same age as Ben-Hur. And Ben-Hur kind of is interested who this guy is, but he's not really at the forefront of his mind. He's more interested in finding his family and wreaking his vengeance on Messala. Eventually Ben-Hur falls in with this sheikh who is fabulously wealthy and has these 4 glorious white chargers who race chariots, and Ben-Hur is experienced at this in Rome. He's a great success in Rome, so he comes over and he starts to train as the charioteer for these 4 wonderful horses. Eventually Ben-Hur, now rich again and free, finds Messala and demands to know the whereabouts of his mother and sister. The surprised Messala says that they're in jail still, and he asks his associates to try and find them. But it turns out that Miriam and Tirzah are lepers, and they're taken out of the cell and forced into a leper colony in this valley. Esther knows about it because she's been feeding them, but Miriam and Tirzah, when they hear that Ben-Hur's back in town, they don't want to have the shame of him seeing them as they are, so they tell Esther to tell Judah Ben-Hur that his family are dead. And at this point, Ben-Hur is just seething with the desire to kill Messala. Act 4 is all about really the death of Messala. And it's here that we have that wonderful sequence of the chariot race, which was not directed by William Wyler. It was by his his directing team, the second unit, including a young Sergio Leone, I believe. And the collection of scenes which form this chariot section is one of the greatest moments in Hollywood. And it's during this glorious race that Ben-Hur, despite the skullduggery of Messala, who's racing against him with these sharpened wheel spikes on his chariot, it's here that in this thrilling race that Ben-Hur wins, and Messala comes off his chariot and is trampled and eventually dies. But just before Messala dies, he does tell Ben-Hur that his mother and his sister are still alive, albeit lepers. And the final act of this epic film is concerned with Ben-Hur's salvation, really, and this perhaps sums up the whole of the film. Ben-Hur eventually finds his mother and sister in the Valley of Lepers with the help of Esther, and he brings them out, and they stumble across the trial of Jesus Christ, and they're kind of in the distance watching this thing. And then they are bystanders as Christ carries his cross to Golgotha, and it's here that Ben-Hur manages to give Christ some water, a reversal of what happens in the first act, of course. There's a nice symmetry there in the film. Christ dies on the cross. There's a huge storm, even though it's daytime and everything goes dark. But then it's revealed that actually Ben-Hur's sisters are healed because of this. They're healed of leprosy. And it seems something has changed in Ben-Hur's heart. He seems to have managed to let go of this hatred because of this encounter with Christ, and he seems to be free to live a different kind of life. And that's where the film ends. Now, Ben-Hur is just such a great film. I mean, it's great just to watch a film with thousands upon thousands of people involved, which isn't just CGI. I mean, it's just so great to see an epic film, no expenses spared. And the chariot scene is just absolutely masterful. I mean, what an exciting, thrilling ride, literally, that is. I mean, it's just absolutely extraordinary. I mean, surely that's the highlight of the film. But I love the bit in the galley as well, just when they have the battle and when he meets Arius. And the encounters with Christ are very touching as well. They're like moments of repose through the film. They're like pillars through the film, giving it structure. And the music there changes as well. Miklos Rosa's music is just so delightfully stirring and otherworldly here. The way he shifts the harmony, these modal harmonies, and the way the chords change in the orchestra. Really moving music. Yes, and you can't deny, of course, that it is a religious film. I mean, it's really about Ben-Hur and Jesus Christ, their lives in tandem, but Ben-Hur's life being altered unimaginably by Jesus. But even if you're not religious, it's just such a stirring film filled with great performances and just such a high production value. It really is extraordinary. And just some of the little details. I mean, when Christ is delivering the Sermon on the Mount, you notice the 12 disciples in front of him. And one of them is beardless. Of course, that's St. John, who's always portrayed as being without a beard. It's just little details like that in this epic visual feast really make this film very special. And Charlton Heston as Ben-Hur is really solid performance, of course. Haya Harriet as Esther is really great as well. She's got a real presence about her. And the supporting cast, Stephen Boyd and Jack Hawkins and others, really great film. So if you haven't seen Ben-Hur, check it out. And if you haven't seen it for a long time, or it's one of those films that used to be on in the background when you were a kid at Easter time or something, check it out, watch it again. It's a really good film, and it looks so great digitally restored as well. So check it out on Blu-ray or stream it or whatever. Thanks for watching. There's just a brief slideshow going through the themes and structure after this. Bye.